Donna with Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me today. This is the project that I want to be sharing with you. Now I'm actually going to be making this tag, but I wanted to show you the versatility of this stamp and die set. This is all made using some product from the Quilted Christmas Suite. Now what I have used is some of the Quilted Christmas 6x6 Designer Series paper, and I love this paper. As you can see, on one side it's all of this patchwork quilt patterns done in the garden green and real red and white. Then when you flip it over to the other side, which you can see I've been playing there, these are all quilted stitch patterns on this side. And we had a gingham in there as well. So really cute paper, very versatile, lots you can do with it, traditional colors. Then I used the bundle of the Quilted Christmas bundle. That's what this is called, and what comes in that is the Quilted Christmas stamp set and the Quilt Builder framelits. As you can see, these are both totally different looking, but I used the same stamp set and the same framelits to make both of these with. Now this is the one that I'm going to be showing you how to make today, and I've even made a couple of versions of this one. What I did differently was I did some clear embossing on this one and then stamped my sentiment and then added some green ink in the background. This one I did some stamping in the background and put my sentiment on top of it and then did some matting. So this is the one that I'm going to be showing you. At some point in time, if I have enough interest, I'll probably do a tutorial on this one as well. So let me show you everything that you're going to need to make this project. And of course I have a kit. To be entered to win the kit, just go over to my blog at wallastamping.com, find the post for this project, leave a comment under there, and your name will go in to be entered to win the kit. Now I'm making mine with some chipboard because it's such a large tag. It's 6x3, and this chipboard, if you are a customer with Stampin' Up, anytime that you buy any kind of paper, you always have a piece of chipboard in the back, and that's where I got this. So I cut this piece to 6 inches by 3 inches. Then I have a piece of my Quilted Christmas 6x6 paper. I've cut this also to 3x6. I have a piece of real red that is 6x6. Very vanilla 2 1/4 by 2 3/4. Pear pizzazz 3x3. Silver glimmer paper, just a scrap about 2 inches by 2 inches will be plenty big enough, and a piece of early espresso 2 1/2 by 3. If you didn't catch all of those dimensions, you can get all of them over on my website underneath this blog post. There is a printable PDF there for you. It'll have all of the instructions as well as the dimensions and a list of supplies that I use to create these tags. Now be aware that the Quilted Christmas Suite is not available until September the 1st, but if you're interested in making this, at least you'll be able to know what the items number are and how to order them. So let's get this set aside and get started building this. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is attach my paper to my chipboard, and I'm going to do that using my liquid multi-purpose glue. I'm just going to run a bead around close to the edge, and then I'm going to fill in the center. Oopsie. I'm going to wipe that up right now or it'll be sticking to everything. And I'm going to go ahead and attach this together. You can use your bone folder if you would like and just run that across the top, and that will get all of that adhesive smoothed out under there. If any does seep out the side, just wipe it away. Now I'm going to flip this over and grab my ruler. I'm going to line it up here, and I'm going to make a mark at 1 inch and at 2 inches. Then I'm going to make a mark at 3/4 of an inch on this side and 3/4 of an inch on this side. Then I'm going to use my ruler and line it up between those two marks that I just made and draw a pencil line. Do the same thing over here. grab my scissors and then just trim that off. I'm doing this because I think that this is more of a traditional tag shape. If you wanted to leave yours rectangular, that would be fine, but I like this shape a little bit better. Now the inks I'm going to be using today are my basic black archival, my crumb cake, and my garden green. I'm also going to be using a couple of stamping sponges. I'm going to start off with my garden green. I'll move those up there. And one of my stamping sponges. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to come along the side and just rub that ink all up the side of my chipboard, because I don't want that chipboard to be showing, and I'm going to have it blend in by coloring it with my garden green ink, since my paper is garden green. Next, I've got my Pierce mat, and I'm going to be using this little image here, which I have on a block C. I'm going to use my crumb cake ink. And where is my, there it is, my Very Vanilla cardstock. And I'm going to ink up the stamp here, stamp it off once there, and then stamp onto my Very Vanilla. Actually, I'm going to grab a paper towel to put under there to keep my Pierce mat from getting all inked up. Now I have a second sponge. I'm going to dip into my crumb cake, and I'm going to distress around the edges of this piece. Then I'm going to take my sentiment and my basic black, get that inked up, and I'm going to stamp this right across the center. I'm going to be using my fast fuse to attach my sentiment to my early espresso cardstock. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab some dimensionals and put them on the back. I'll put one in the center, and then I'll put one in each corner. Set this aside until I'm ready for it. Now Sugar is in here with me, and she has her chew bone, and she is going to town on that thing. So if you hear a lot of crunching sounds in the background, it's just Sugar chewing on her bone. Okay, so now I've got these two portions ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, if I don't drop it first, my Big Shot and bring this over. I'm going to start out with my Real Red, and I'm going to use this pair of framelits here. I'm going to lay that over and get one lined up inside of the other. And then I'm going to use a piece of Post-it note tape. You could use any kind of tape here, as long as it is a repositionable temporary tape. You could use, let me get this down here so I can see what I'm doing better. You could use some painter's tape if you wanted to, or some washi tape, anything like that that you're able to move it. And the reason that I'm sticking this together is because I'm going to be cutting out several of these. I want to make sure that I don't have to reposition it every time I cut it out. So what I'm going to do is cut out 5 of them like this. Then I'll take it apart, and I will only be cutting out this outside edge. I will not have this in the center, and I'm going to do 3 of those. Then I'm going to cut one of these out with my Pear Pizzazz, and cut one more out with my Silver Glimmer paper. Then when I'm done with that, I'm going to take this little star image, and the leftover of my Pear Pizzazz, I'm going to cut 3 of these little stars out with the remainder of my Pear Pizzazz. All of my little it's cut out now. What I'm going to do next is take the pieces here that were the solid flowers, and I'm going to snip about 1/4 of an inch in where each of the little petals come together. Then what I'm going to do is take these, and you've seen me do this before, I'm sure. I'm going to take my piercing tool and use the back end, which is kind of round and blunt. I'm going to place it on the outside of each of those petals and draw it in toward me. That is going to give each of those petals a little bit of a curl, and it also will make the edges of them kind of have a little frilly look to them, which a poinsettia does. And you may say poinsettia. I grew up saying poinsettia, so I guess it depends on what area of the country you're from will determine how you call the name of this plant. Once I get all 3 of them done, I'll flip them over and I'll push down on the center and give them a shape like that. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take all of my real red petals like this, as well as the pear pizzazz ones that I made, and each one of them I'm going to basically do the same thing. I'm just going to run the rounded end of my piercing tool right down the center of each of these petals and give them a little curl. Now the little stars that I cut out, I'm just going to push straight down in the center of each of those to give those a little cup look to them. Alright, so let's start building our flowers. To do that with, I'm going to use my mini glue dots. I'm going to put 2 or 3 just in, whoops, that one did not go where I wanted it to. Let me reposition that. So I'm going to put 2 or 3 of them, actually I'll get rid of it right over there, in the center of my flower, but space them out a little bit. So see what I'm saying? I've got 2 right there side by side. I'll go ahead and put a 3rd one. And it might even be easier to be able to see what you're doing to use your piercing tool to lay those down where you want them to go. Then I'm going to take 6 of my little petals, and where each of these petals here come together and meet, I'm going to place one down so that it's in the center of those 2 and go all the way around the flower in this way. So once I have that done, I'm going to place another glue dot right here in the center. If I can keep it from sticking to me and stick to my paper, I'll be doing great. There it goes. So I'm going to use 3 or 4 petals again and space these in between the ones that I just placed down. And if you'll notice, I'm using my piercing tool, but I'm coming in at an angle, or actually I'm almost going flat with it, because if you punch straight down, you're just going to punch a hole through it, and that is not what you want to accomplish. So I'm doing mine for assistance, but just almost laying it completely flat. Once that's done, I'll take one more glue dot, place it in the center, put my little green star on top. Then I'll take my pierce tool and give that a really good hard press to give that flower some shape. So I'm going to finish up the other 2 and I'll be right back. Now let's get our tag all put together. So I've got my sentiment here. I'm going to use one of these, which is the pear pizzazz, and 1 red and 1 silver. Now the reason I went with pear pizzazz instead of garden green is because I knew that if I use garden green, it's just going to blend into the background, and I wanted it to stand out a little bit. So that's the reason that I went with a little bit different shade of green. I'm just going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue and just put it all on the back here. This one's going to get stuck just about in the center, and I've got it probably 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. Okay. Then I'm going to take this and stick that down in a position so that I can see all three of those flowers. So this is going to go a little more toward the top as opposed to the bottom of the card. Then I'm also going to use dimensionals to put all of my flowers into place. So one of them I'm going to stick about right here. Then the other one I'm going to put right out here along the edge of the sentiment. And then the third one I'm going to put right down here. And the other one I didn't put on the sentiment, I put it down here, but I'm trying to make sure that some of that green shows a little bit, so I'm actually going to stick that one up on the sentiment too. Now I'm going to be adding some of my leaves. I'm going to use some of the glimmer paper as well as some of the pear pizzazz. I'm just going to use glue dots. You could use whatever type of adhesive you would like. If you'd prefer to use liquid glue, you can. But glue dots are so quick because once you stick it down, it's stuck. Now the last thing you need to consider doing is punching a hole in the top. What I have is memory makers, or what is this called? We Are Memory Maker or Memory Keepers. And it's just a heavy-duty 1/4-inch hole punch. I'm going to punch a hole in the top so that I have a place to put some string or some baker's twine or something like that. Now you are going to have several of these left over. Just keep them for another project. So let's bring in all of these that I made. So these two are the same, and then this one is similar, except the sentiment is done a little bit differently. But I hope that you liked all of these cards today, and I think that they would make just a really fun gift tag for your Christmas gifts. And if you go over to my blog, I'm going to have a list of all of the supplies that I used over there. I've also prepared a printable instruction sheet for you. It's going to give you all the dimensions as well as the directions for the project, like I was saying in the beginning. And if you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Thanks for stopping by today. I really do hope that you enjoyed this project and that it will inspire you to make your own Christmas tags for your gift giving this year. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you won't miss any of my future paper crafting tutorials. And I thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon.